Hi. Okay, we're going to be talking about Chapter 7 and 8 today, and the first quote from Chapter 7 that I found interesting is found in Section 7.1.3, Open the Interview. This quote, it's kind of long, is, "In addition to being on time and being appropriately dressed for the interview, another way to make a positive impression is to make direct eye contact and use a firm handshake. One study found that the perceptions of conscientiousness or a person who is intelligent, dependable, and goal-driven are created when interviewers see interviewees using eye contact." So without even really stating it, the author is making the connection back to nonverbal communication and how important it is in our everyday communication, but especially when it comes to job interviews. He's drawing a great connection with this quote. Also, he brings up the relevance that it's important to prepare for interviews in the aspect of answering questions properly and giving the interviewer the correct information, but you must also prepare mentally and be able to give the interviewer direct eye contact and a firm handshake. It goes hand in hand with your appearance. It gives them the first impression, and it kind of sets the tone for how they might perceive you for the rest of the interview. Okay, and from Chapter 8, I'm sorry, that was only one quote from Chapter 7. The second quote from Chapter 7 is found in Section 7.3.3, Closing the Interview. The quote is, "Your resume states that you've worked with 2 presidents, won the Nobel Prize, and climbed Mount Everest. That's all fine and dandy, but how are you at telemarketing?" This quote could be found under the image of a man and woman sitting across from each other. It's slightly cartoonish, but it's a great example of what an employer is wanting to hear in an interview. They want relevant information, so if you're applying for a certain position, they're expecting you to give information based on experience that would be relevant to you being hired. It kind of relates back to the term of interview topic, which acts as a script. So if the interviewer is expecting certain responses, they have this whole list of questions already decided on that they're going to use. So if you're off subject, then they're not going to be able to successfully have the interview with you as well as they would if you were supplying them with relevant information. Okay, and now for Chapter 8. The first quote is found in Section 8.1.3, which is following up an information gathering interview. The quote is, "One of the goals when following up on an interview is to leave a positive impression and to thank the interviewee for his or her time." So since they use interviewee, I'm guessing that this is giving as an example for our career search interview that the text was talking about. And so I think the author mentions giving thanks because it leaves a good impression on the interviewee. It could give, just when they think of you, they could think positive things. The text states that it reflects a certain maturity that they're going to perceive from you. Also, I have had previous professors talk about how it kind of just reminds them of you. Days prior, if you're sending them thanks, then instantly they're going to think of you again, and they're like, oh yeah, I like that person. And ultimately, it can help you towards the next step of your career, whether it's getting position with them, making new connections, etc. Okay, and the last quote is in Section 8.2.2, which is identify the interview goal. Okay, as the interviewee, your task is to identify skills that are marketable. According to one survey of employers, more than 90% of the people interviewed cannot adequately describe the skills they possess. This chapter is doing a great job of connecting with concepts from prior chapters that we talked about, because this quote is connecting with the concept of self-awareness and how important it is when the previous chapters talked about just in many situations in life why it is important, but this chapter is specifically addressing how if you want to properly identify the goal of an interview, you need to be self-aware of what your goal is and ultimately what you want to get as a goal from the interview. You must be aware of your own skills, and some of the skills that the text offers as categories that you might base that off of it to help you further analyze would be either adaptive, transferable, or job-related skills that you could provide. So you could be task-oriented, great with learning new topics, new technology, etc. I'm sorry, I messed up on that, but yeah, I think that those were all great, very informative, helpful quotes to be included with the chapters this week.